YouTube. Hi again. One more for today. Okay. You won't hear from me until Monday, so just one more for today. Tim Kaine, it's a terrible time for games. And I think that he doesn't think this. I think that he's responding to people that say this, which I don't think it's a terrible time for games. I think it is a difficult time for game development. And it's a difficult time to find good games and for AAA, but there's still great games coming out.
Hi everyone, it's me,
Hi,
Tim.
Tim.
It's a terrible time for games. I hear this phrase a
Yeah, me
lot,
too.
and not just recently. I've always heard this. I've heard this since I was a kid, when I first got in the industry, when I went back into the industry, throughout my time in the industry, and I'm hearing it now. I'm hearing it's a bad time for gamers. I'm hearing it's a bad time for game developers. Bad, 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 bad. I hear this all the time. I've said before, I think this is a pretty good time for games. And I understand. There's always something you can point at and go, what about
There's always
this?
shit coming
You're
out.
right. There's never been a good
Yeah.
time. If you require everything to be perfect, there will never be a good time. I know layoffs, the tech sector, things going digital. I'll get into all that. I'm just saying, if you wait for everything to be perfect and there not to be a single problem, a single issue that would cause you to want to play games or to be a game developer, you're going to be waiting a long time. It's never happened. Let me
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I do think it's a tough time for game dev, but I'll say this. If you're in game dev and you've been laid off, I'm really sorry. I get it. Like, I don't make any money here either, so I guess we're in the same boat there. What I would recommend is to actively make the game dev industry the way you want it. And if you have the time, any money to afford trying to do that, do it. Speak out. State what you don't like. State how you want it to change. If you don't like that the job stability is bad, work with others to identify the reasons that it's this way and actively petition to change it, right? Actively try to make it something else. If you have the time and you want to make your own game and you're tired of listening to other people, start your own studio. Make your own games. Just do it. Nike. Just do it. Just go out there. Don't let your dreams be dreams. I can't do this without sounding memey, but seriously, don't let your dreams be dreams. Just do it.
talk to you about some of the things I used to hear. And this is over the space of the last 43 years. So, I've heard business arguments for why either it's a bad time for the game industry or a bad time to get in the game
There's always
industry or
money in
these games
games.
are bad. Arcades were huge, huge when I was a
I
teenager.
miss arcades.
Our local mall had an arcade called Time Out. It's always packed with kids. Those closed down, and everyone said it's the end of the industry. I had an Atari VCS console. Tons of really cool games for it. Then Atari started putting out a lot of junk. You probably heard the scary tales about the E.T., the extraterrestrial game that got
Infamous.
plowed over in a dump, or the horrible Superman cartridge game. Well, the entire console market collapsed, and people were like, "That's it, it's dead." Yeah, guess what? Guess what we got out of that? Nintendo. A whole
Yeah, I mean, there was a time. It's like PC was at a certain point, uh, really taking the shit, and consoles were big. Consoles then took a dip. PC gained, and then consoles came back, and I think we had a pretty damn good golden era of console games. Nowadays, I would say console games have kind of, you don't buy consoles for the games anymore. You buy it for the convenience and the price. And I hate people that say consoles aren't worth it. I think they are. It just depends on what you're looking for. A $400 to $500 console is still going to outperform a similarly priced computer, and a lot of people don't want to deal with the hassle of computers. They want to be able to put the disc in or download the game, play the game, not have to fiddle around with options menus or crashes or bullshit. The consistency and quality with games on consoles generally is much better than PC. Like in terms of like stability, right? Not quality of what if the game is good or bad, but just speaking about that. They're still worth the price. Over in Australia, PC was where it was at. You want a video game store, it was all PC. If you wanted a console game, you were going to a toy store or department store. That's crazy.
whole new
Definitely
wave
different in
of
the
really
U.S.
cool consoles. Now, with everything going online and games being mostly digital, people are going to be crying, "Oh my God, it's the end of the game industry." After decades of this, you can only just go, "Okay, whatever." It's just the new latest Chicken Little thing.
Yep.
I also got a lot of personal arguments about why I shouldn't become a game developer. And these are things that are not about the industry, these were about me. Um, a lot of my teachers and fellow students in grad
Same.
school told me not to go into games. They told me it was beneath me, that I was wasting my master's degree. I was actually working on my PhD, and I had my thesis advisor go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're going to walk away from this." I had a lot of people, friends more did this than the teachers and students, tell me I was getting in too late. Oh, the game industry's already peaked. Richard Garriott is going to be the last game developer millionaire. I mean, okay. This would have been what, the late 80s, early 90s.
You were getting in too late in the 80s to 90s. It's not ever going to be true. I had similar issues. I was pretty much a failure in school, in high school. I got terrible grades. I flunked out of classes. It was weird though. I think most of it was just my personality. Like if I felt like the teacher didn't care and I wasn't enjoying what I was learning, I just didn't do the homework or care about the class. So I got an F. Or I acted out. I acted out a lot to get attention. But other times I got teachers that I felt were like they had fun, they engaged, I was enjoying learning, and when I was enjoying learning, I wanted to get good grades. Like US history class, I got really good grades in because I liked the teacher. He was a lot of fun. He was a bit younger. Um, he kind of vibed with the students a bit more because he wasn't old and crusty, and he made learning about all of our wars and our history really enjoyable. I got like a B, I think, in his class. Um, Similarly, in like a math class, you would think, well, I'm not very super good at math, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. I like puzzles. I like the logic of it. And some teachers I got an F in, and other math teachers I had like an A or B in. So I eventually, as you guys might know, I just dropped out of high school. I said it was whatever, fuck it. But I had a lot of teachers who just said that I wasn't going to amount to anything. I was never going to. I was probably going to end up in jail. I had a couple say that. Some teachers, though, were nicer. They knew that I applied myself when I was interested. I still don't know really what that makes me. Like, what does that mean from a personality standpoint, that when I care, I try? But I had some teachers that were really helpful and really positive, and I think those meant a lot. But then, when I mentioned that I liked video games, it was like, yeah, well, every teenage boy loves video games, so of course they want to become a game developer. Every one of them. And they said it was unrealistic, it was never going to happen, blah, 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 blah. You're never going to make any money doing it. That was kind of true because I was a game designer. You're not going to make money as a game designer. But the other things weren't very true. I think, honestly, what separates people in life is not any of those qualities. I don't even think it's intelligence. I don't think it's leadership, ability. I think the one thing that separates most people in life from success or failure is just perseverance. It's simply all it is. There are easier things to make money from. There are harder things. But you can get the harder things if you just keep trying, and you keep applying yourself and you learn. So, I think perseverance is the number one difference between success and failure for most people, or it's the most determining factor, let's put it that way. Nothing else.
People actually said that, and they believed it. And then once I got into the industry, it doesn't stop. You might think, okay, you're now a game developer. It's not going to end. No. Once you get into the industry, the bad, negative, pessimistic advice just keeps coming at you. I was told, don't make RPGs. They are a dead genre. Look at adventure games. They're dead. No one makes these anymore. You better not get yourself tied into this genre because it's going to be dead. Everything's going to be multiplayer online MMORPGs. Well, that didn't happen. There are new genres. The MMORPGs came out, but RPGs still get made. Single player RPGs still get made.
Genres come back in fashion too.
I was told, don't make PC games. Their PC games are dead. By the way, this has happened multiple times, but people are emphatic about it. Sometimes it's other game developers, sometimes it's marketing people, sometimes it's publishers. They all tell you how PC games are dead. It's all console and mobile now. It's dead. Yeah, it's been dying now for 20 years and it's still around. So, you know, okay.
Well, it's you could also, or you could argue, of course, yeah, the PC market's smaller than the mobile market, sure, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a PC market, and the PC market is going to be there. So you can still make games. Of course, you have to be a bit more realistic about budget, right, and scope in the way that you release the game. But if the market's there and your game falls within a relatively reasonable budget and has a decent market, sure, you can make pretty much any game work.
It's not dead. I was told repeatedly, and recently not to make a turn based game. No one wants to play a turn based game. It's niche. Everybody wants action. Then BG3 came out.
The thing is, good games can revive genres. I think that a lot of times genres die because there is just too much stagnation within the genre itself. The genre isn't trying anything new, and so the market sticks to the old games that are doing something fresh, that are still enjoyable, or they just move on to different genres. So yeah, I do think that to a certain extent, CRPGs were much more niche. I don't know if it's niche or niche. I don't really care. They're much more niche than they are now, but Baldur's Gate 3 was a wide appeal game. I don't think it was the best CRPG ever made. I think it did some things well. It was enjoyable, but it also appealed to a wider audience and got people who weren't interested in some of the stale ways that CRPGs had existed, or maybe they didn't have as high production value to interest these people. And BG3 succeeded at making a high production value CRPG with relatively enjoyable characters that it may not have been the best in the industry, but it presented itself in an exceptional way. I was talking about a related topic the other day. He was talking about how a lot of game devs will make a few small games, then do one big risky games, and if that succeeds, they'll often make an even bigger game, and that is also a huge risk. Agree. Eventually, the risk doesn't pay off. I think his point was that kind of mentality leads to a doomer feeling. There is that mentality of we succeeded with a big risky game, so that means we can make a bigger, more risky game. A good example of what you should do as a developer would be Supergiant Games. I would argue that the scope of Bastion compared to Hades, it's not that much different. They're pretty similar in scope. I think that you could say Hades is a larger scope, sure, but that they're pretty similar in size. And same with Pyre, with Transistor, they're all pretty similar. But there's a clear level of growth and quality that has been gained from Bastion to Hades. Let's just say for their fully finished released games. They have been really good at saying, this is our scope, this is what we're good at, let's keep doing what we're good at, but doing it better and better and better and better each time without trying to make some, let's just say, big MMORPG, right? So maybe Thor is right that there is this doomer feeling of we took on a big risk, let's take on a bigger risk. No, I think that you should find a good scope for your team and make games that fit within that scope. Stop trying to increase scope, increase quality. That's what players want. They're okay playing a game that is small in scope but has good quality. Vampire Survivors is a very small scoped game, but it's really fun and it's really well made. It doesn't have to be super big to be super fun. That would be my advice. Find your scope, improve quality from there.
And those people are like, I heard it's the exception that proves the rule. It's a fluke. I would love to have a multi-million unit selling fluke. So basically,
I do think BG3 is an exception. It's gonna give me a hot water probably. BG3 is not the average for CRPGs, or turn-based strategy fantasy games, let's just say. It is far above average in terms of quality, in terms of scope, in terms of budget. Now, I would love if that became the new standard for quality, but I wouldn't say that we should try to achieve a standard of quality in game genres because that might lead to some people saying, well, your new CRPG. Who are the developers behind Solasta? Okay, I'm not about to shit on Solasta. I loved playing Solasta, Tactical Adventures. But there's no denying that the budget and scope of Solasta was smaller than Baldur's Gate 3. I don't think people should play whatever their next game is from Tactical Adventures and say, we expected this to be like BG3. I think we should say BG3 was exceptional. It was very high budget. It was very high production. Not all developers can reach that because they have smaller budgets. Let's be happy with both. The constant upping of the ante would lead to a feeling of precarity, and then when big project collapses, they're like, well, we were always teetering on the edge. Yeah, I don't like the constant upping of the ante, and I don't think that developers should set a expectation that their next game is going to be bigger and better. I think they should say, our game will be similar, our new game, like let's say Anvil Chronicles, right? Anvil Chronicles, we'd like to be similar in scope, but even better in quality. Simple as that. BG3 is like a super big budget movie. Not every game needs to be that huge. Yeah, I agree. Haven't heard of this. Could you drop a link? Yeah, I will say if you are interested in Solasta, it is much more linear. It is very linear, but their implementation of the 5e system was really enjoyable. It says based on the SRD 5.1. I don't know what that means, but it felt like D&D. Very enjoyable. Really, really good combat. And they let you get up to level 20, I think. So you could do some pretty cool stuff later in the game. I don't like the upping of the ante either, but I think it helps explain the phenomenon. I think you're right, yeah.
Don't listen to these people. It's always been a bad time to get into game development or to make the games you want or even to be a game player. It's always been bad. There have always been people saying it's bad. There always will be people saying it's bad. If I had listened to this advice back in the 80s or 90s, there would be no fallout. I either wouldn't have gone in the industry at all, I wouldn't have left grad school, or I certainly wouldn't have made an RPG, certainly wouldn't have made a turn-based RPG, certainly wouldn't have made it on a PC, It's just, wow, how wrong could all of those people be? And it wasn't just a few people, it was a lot, all along at every stage.
There was a book, or there's a movie. I don't remember the movie, but or was it? It was either a movie or a TV show. It was a TV. It was The Office. It was The Office. I think it was Jim saying to Pam, or somebody saying to Pam, there's always a million reasons to say no. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that in a lot of cases of life. The things you want are going to take work. They're going to take perseverance. Just because I have 10 years of experience in game dev doesn't mean that I haven't, some kind of media, right? That I haven't thought a million times about getting out of game dev, because it's fucking hard. When I was starting in game dev, I couldn't get any jobs or interviews. And I felt once every 2 months, I was like, this sucks. I'm getting out. I'm finding something else to do with my life. I can't do it. I cannot get in the industry. It's not going to happen. But the one thing that separates the successful people in game dev from the people who aren't in game dev but want to be is perseverance. It's finding those blocks and getting past them, pushing on past that, trying to get better. That's it. That's really all it is. And I know it sucks. It doesn't really help you become better in the industry, right? It's not much help to say, well, we'll just keep trying. But if you want to boil it down to one saying, it's really just keep trying. Like, you're always going to have a million reasons to jump out of the industry. I read a tweet every single fucking day, it feels like, from some game dev who worked on a pretty cool game and was like, you know what, I'm out of the industry, I'm going to go do something else. And it's like, well, that's how it happens. That's how people leave the industry. That's how talented individuals don't make any more games in their life. It's the ones that stick around that push through the tough times. They're always tough times, like Tim is saying, who become successful. I don't know how else to put it.
If I had listened to these people, there would be no Arcanum, because
Yep.
Fallout. Even if Fallout was the fluke and people did like it, it reviewed well. It's a fluke. You better make it your next one real time, and kind of had to, half and half. But even more than no Arcanum, there wouldn't have been a Troika. The headwinds that we faced trying to make a new game development studio on the basis of look at Fallout and then look at Arcanum were strong. There was everyone, repeating, oh, you're PC, oh, it's RPG, oh, you made turn-based again, blah. So, all I want to tell you, if you've watched this far, this doesn't have to be a long video, don't listen to these arguments. And if you're making them, realize I've heard this already. Everything you're going to say, everything I've already heard. You can package it up in something new, like, well, look at the layoffs.
I don't think I did play
there have
Arcanum.
always been layoffs. I've watched whole companies go under. I've watched whole sub-industries die. I watched the console industry die out and then get reborn like a phoenix. So, been there, seen it. People are always going to play games. They're always going to want games.
Yep.
There's just going to be new kinds of jobs in new kinds of areas. Now, you can listen to these stories as a caution. I remember 2D artists really poo-pooed 3D art, and I was like, I think this is going to stay. Now there's far more 3D artists than 2D artists, and the 2D artists that exist are occasionally, you do get 2D art games, but a lot of them are now making textures for 3D art games.
Yep.
So you have to watch what's happening, but don't treat it as something that's going to prevent you from doing anything. Just treat it as an opportunity to do new things, to go in a new direction, to decide, oh, this is the direction we're going. I think that's true for AI. AI is going to replace some jobs.
Yes.
It's also going to create new jobs. You've heard about AI whisperers. It's also going to be like every other tool anyone has ever made. It doesn't let you make things faster, so to speak. Levels seem to take about the same amount of time to make as they did before, even though they have better tools. What it lets you do is make bigger levels. It lets you make better looking levels. Because even though the tools let you do things faster, now you're worried about lighting and shaders and a whole...
For me, AI it's a lot like procedural generation in games. You're asking a computer to make something that doing it on your own would take a lot more skill and time to do, right? It's similar. Let's just put it that way. It may not be the same, but it's similar. I think there are ethical quandaries to generative AI, sure. That is separate to whether or not generative AI will become popular. They'll just start training them on other data sets or open source data sets, or they'll license data sets, whatever. It's not going to go away. You need to learn how to use AI in your job now, especially in game dev. You need to find a way to help it augment you so that you become faster. That's it. Don't let it replace you. Let it augment you, like some cybernetics bullshit. Okay? For me, I use ChatGPT to help summarize things. It is exceptional at that. It is so good at that. I can just feed it random, out of context ideas and thoughts that I have about a new system, and it can instantly put them into a readable format that is more organized. And I could do that on my own. Sure, I can. I've done it before. I did before AI existed. But it takes a lot of time, and it's boring, and I could be doing something that's more, I don't know, more requiring than that. Hey, true player, AI is like a junior that you hired to do some job for you. It is like a junior. And, for like game design and stuff, it is pretty much on the level of junior. It doesn't really know how to fit things into a larger picture, but it's really good for brainstorming. It's good for summarizing. I don't think players should be upset that developers are using AI. I think they just need to determine what is an acceptable usage of AI. Are you having it make a background for you and putting that background into your game? That's pretty lazy. But am I using it for development to take my thoughts of how to design a system and saying, hey, can you organize this for me into a bullet point list? Can you take my randomly written down thoughts and ideas and just format them better for me? How old is this video? I think it's like a few months old. 3 months. Tanks are rotating. So I don't think AI is going anywhere. I do think it will replace some jobs, but the best thing you can do to prepare for that is to say, I don't need AI to do my job for me, but I use AI to help me do my job faster or to do the things that would take a stupid amount of time for me to do that would just waste time and money for the company. Like formatting strings. We'll just teach AI how to do it in like 5 minutes and then just copy paste a whole bunch of strings in and have it format them for you depending on your new data set. We're gonna make my tank enemies conform to the hills and the levels. Oof. That sounds like a fun challenge.
A whole bunch of where water is and all these other things you didn't have to worry about early on. So take all these things as, okay, things are changing, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't go into the industry or shouldn't enjoy games or the entire game industry is going to die. It's not going to happen. Don't let that.
I do think that the barrier to entry into game dev, professional game dev, is very high. I do think that. What I don't think is that the barrier to entry into game dev has never been lower, but to get an actual job in the industry, I do feel like that has been more difficult than it ever has been, if you ask me. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know much about mobile game dev because I don't do mobile game dev. Maybe it's a bit easier to find like a junior position working on some asset flip mobile game, but to get into like professional PC console development, it sucks. It really sucks. Sorry, but I can't really give any advice to juniors apart from you need to stand out from hundreds of people. And the best way to do that is to make games, to be better than the rest, to showcase your personality, to show that you can learn very fast, that you can be a good team player, and that if they hire you as a junior, that within 1 or 2 years can become a valuable team player. Garrus basically challenged me to do it. I feel like it's a bit out of the spec for the retro theme, but it does look really good. Hey, if it looks good, that's a good outcome.
That prevents you from doing what you want. So let me tell you, as an old guy, more people I know my age regret not doing things, not trying things, than trying them.
Yes.
Even the people who've tried and failed. I made my
I
own
say as
game
a
company,
29-year-old.
and then I had to shut it down. 7 years later? I do not regret that. I do not regret making Arcanum or Temple or Bloodlines. I like those games. I had fun making those games, and there are people who like those games. I'm just saying, my guess would right now, if I'd never tried making my own company, I'd be regretting it.
I think I've said that before too. I know a lot of my friends said you shouldn't do this. Just suck it up, do your job, don't cause trouble, don't be so passionate about game dev because it's gonna bite you in the ass. Yeah, sure it does. But guess what? If I didn't try doing this with my company, I would regret it. Just suck it off, yeah. But it's like if Microraptor Games doesn't work out right now, if I run out of money, well, I'm not gonna regret trying it. Sure, my bank account could have been better if I had worked at a different company, but I promise you that the work that I do on Colden Chronicles, Decimation, whatever, even with these videos, teaching people, trying to educate, share my own experiences, educate myself from, all of Tim's experience or people in chat who know a lot more about coding or art, animation, sound than I do, this is just going to make me a better candidate for obtaining a job. I promise you, I may have had a hard time before this getting a senior position at a company. Not gonna have a problem now. I do not regret a single thing. I know more about biz dev. I know more about networking, pitching to publishers, talking to customers, working with a community, streaming, everything. All of this will make me a better candidate, and you can be damn sure that you're going to see my name on some pretty important games in the future. May not be next year, may not be 5 years from now, but I promise before I get out of this industry, you're going to see me in a well-known position for some well-known game. And I will not regret a single thing that I did to get here.
So, I don't have a whole lot of regrets. I've tried a bunch of different things, and I'm glad I did.
Yep.
So, this is my encouragement to you. Don't let all the pessimists get you down. Things will change, but nothing is gone. Nothing is destroyed. It may pop up again in a new form. It may have its heyday and then go fallow for a while, and then boom, turn bases back, baby. These are just things that are going to happen, and they're going to happen in any area you pick. Don't think.
Are they associated with Darkest Dungeon? Yeah, well, the community hates me. A vocal minority group of the community does hate me for Darkest Dungeon. So
You can go, I'll pick looter shooters, and they're going to be popular forever. I'll do MMORPGs. That will be popular forever. I'm going to code on PlayStation. That will be around forever and never change its code API. I'm going to learn how to rig 3D models, and that is never going to change, and I will never have to learn new software. All that's wrong.
Yep.
You're going to have to learn something new no matter what you do. So rather than listen to the pessimists, just do something. Get started. And just remember that when people tell you this is a terrible time for the game industry, for gamers, for game developers, for whoever, I've heard that for 40 years. Tired of hearing it. It's not true. So, hope you like this.
just do it. Just make the games. He's right. Just jump in. You're not going to know everything when you jump in. I don't know enough about, Unreal's PCG. I don't know enough about the level streaming. What else? Still barely know anything about chaos physics and like animations and stuff. Sound design. There's plenty of stupid decisions I made with the sound design of Colden Chronicles and the prototype that I've now learned that I should do a bit differently. So it's just like, if you don't make those mistakes, you never learn. And nobody's going to teach you because barely anybody has time to teach you. So just jump in, just try it, make some mistakes. You're going to make some shit. It happens. Learn from it. Be better. That's it. But if you don't ever try, you're not ever going to succeed. What is the quote from The Wire? You cannot lose if you do not play, but you can't win either. Another great video from Tim. Here is the link to it. Thank you everybody on YouTube for watching that one. Hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next one. Bye-bye. Bye, YouTube.